There's a certain arrogance to believing that the fortune you inherited will last forever, that the momentum of wealth carries across generations without effort or intelligence. When your great-great-grandfather built $200 billion from ferry boats and ruthless competition, and your great-grandmother spends $3 million on a single party just to prove she belongs, you've already started the countdown to irrelevance. The Vanderbilts mastered the American paradox. They built the nation's transportation spine connecting New York to Chicago, then used those profits to construct palaces that bankrupted their children. 70 rooms for summer vacations, ballrooms larger than most people's homes, 9 mansions for a single woman who couldn't decide which coast suited her mood. In today's episode of Old Money Throne, we expose how America's richest family transformed railroad dominance into architectural excess, how Alva Vanderbilt spent $75 million in today's money just to crash high society's gates, and how by 1973, when 120 Vanderbilt descendants gathered for their first family reunion, not a single millionaire remained among them, proving that wealth without purpose is just expensive kindling for the bonfire of vanity. May 27, 1794, Staten Island, New York. Cornelius Vanderbilt entered the world as the 4th child of a Dutch immigrant ferryman who barely scratched survival from New York Harbor's choppy waters. No silver spoon, no inheritance, nothing but a father's periauger, a 2-masted sailboat designed for cargo, and a mother who taught him that debt was death and frugality was faith. At 11, Cornelius quit school. Numbers on chalkboards couldn't compete with numbers in ledgers. His father needed help ferrying produce from Staten Island to Manhattan's markets, and the boy possessed an instinct for commerce that formal education would have dulled rather than sharpened. This illiteracy would haunt him for life, embarrassing him in elite circles that valued classical education. But numbers? Those he understood with predatory clarity. 16 years old, 1810. Cornelius borrowed $100 from his mother, equivalent to over $2,000 today, with a condition that demonstrated her business acumen. Plow 8 acres of rocky soil first. Earn the loan. She understood something fundamental about her son's character. He needed to prove himself, not be handed success. That $100 purchased his first boat. Passengers and freight between Staten Island and Manhattan. Simple, exhausting, profitable. Within 1 year, he'd repaid the loan and earned over $1,000, more money than his father made in 5 years of backbreaking ferry work. The numbers spoke. Transportation was the future, and Cornelius intended to own it. The War of 1812 exploded opportunity. While others saw conflict, Vanderbilt recognized government contracts. He supplied 6 New York forts with provisions, navigating dangerous waters while competitors stayed docked. The profits funded 3 sailing vessels, including the largest schooner on the Hudson River. His command of that vessel earned him the nickname that would define him, the Commodore. He encouraged the title by wearing regal naval attire. Understanding that perception shapes reality, and reality shapes profit. But sailing vessels had limitations. Steam power was transforming transportation, and Vanderbilt, despite his lack of formal education, understood technology's leverage. In 1817, he sold his fleet and became steamship captain for wealthy businessman Thomas Gibbons. This decision confused his family. Why work for someone else after building his own business? Because Gibbons offered something more valuable than immediate profit: education in large-scale commercial operations and legal strategy. Gibbons was battling a New York state-sanctioned monopoly held by Robert Fulton and Robert Livingston, who'd been granted exclusive steamship rights. Vanderbilt helped Gibbons defy the monopoly, ferrying passengers in direct violation of state law. The case reached the Supreme Court, Gibbons versus Ogden, 1824. The court ruled that interstate commerce fell under federal jurisdiction, not state control. Monopoly shattered. Vanderbilt learned that legal strategy could be more powerful than any steamship. The late 1820s brought independence. Vanderbilt built his own steamship empire through ruthless competition. He'd identify profitable routes, then slash fares below cost until competitors hemorrhaged money. Once they surrendered, he'd raise prices and collect monopoly profits. In some cases, rivals paid him not to compete, essentially bribes to stay away from their roots. The strategy earned him enemies, but also millions. By age 45, Vanderbilt was a millionaire, operating over 100 steamships between New York and Boston, employing more workers than any other American business. Thomas Gibbons once said of him, "I am afraid of this man." Good reason. Vanderbilt didn't compete. He annihilated. The California gold rush of 1849 created transcontinental opportunity. Thousands needed transport to San Francisco before railroads connected the coasts. Vanderbilt launched a route through Nicaragua, faster and cheaper than Cape Horn's treacherous passage. The success multiplied his fortune, but Vanderbilt was already looking beyond steamships. Railroads, the future of American commerce, land-based transportation that didn't depend on weather or seasons. Iron rails connecting agricultural Midwest to urban East Coast, age 69. Most men contemplate retirement. Vanderbilt began buying railroads, starting with the New York and Harlem Railroad. He consolidated competing lines, eliminating redundancy and maximizing efficiency. The Hudson River Railroad, the New York Central. One by one, he absorbed them, creating an integrated system linking New York City to Chicago. In 1870, he combined many holdings into the New York Central and Hudson River Railroad, one of the 19th century's largest corporations. He built Grand Central Depot to serve as the system's hub. The project employed thousands during economic depression, cementing his reputation as empire builder rather than mere profiteer. When Cornelius Vanderbilt died January 4, 1877, his estate totaled $100 million. To understand the scale, this exceeded the entire U.S. Treasury's reserves, adjusted for economic growth and purchasing power, approximately $200 billion in today's terms. He was the richest American, surpassed only later by John D. Rockefeller. But Cornelius understood wealth's fragility. He'd supposedly told his eldest son, William Henry, "Any fool can make a fortune. It takes a man of brains to hold on to it." Prophetic words that his grandchildren would prove tragically accurate. Cornelius left the bulk of his empire to William, roughly $80 million, while his other children received fractions. His daughters got between $250,000 and $500,000 each. Comfortable by 1877 standards, but nowhere near enough to maintain the lifestyle they'd grown accustomed to. His son, Cornelius Jeremiah, whom he considered a wastrel and gambling addict, received only a $200,000 trust fund. The message was clear: fortune demands competence. Squanderers get nothing. William Henry Vanderbilt, eldest son, quiet, unassuming, married at 19 against his father's wishes to Maria Louisa Kissam. Disappointed by William's lack of aggressive ambition, Cornelius banished him to Staten Island to manage a failing farm, expecting failure. Instead, William shocked everyone by turning profit. The farm succeeded through careful management rather than flashy risk-taking. This quiet competence extended to railroads. In 1857, William convinced his father to let him manage the Staten Island Railroad. Another surprise, the line operated profitably within months. By 1865, William served as vice president of the New York and Harlem Railroad and the Hudson River Railroad. When Cornelius died in 1877, William finally gained control of the empire. The 8 years between 1877 and 1885 represented the Vanderbilt fortune's apex. William expanded the railroad network throughout the Midwest, improved efficiency, and nearly doubled the inheritance to over $200 million. He was the richest American until his death in 1885. He built the Triple Palace, a block-long mansion on Fifth Avenue filled with European art. But William maintained his father's frugality and personal habits, understanding that ostentation for its own sake destroyed rather than preserved wealth. His children would not share this wisdom. William's 4 sons divided the empire. Cornelius Vanderbilt II received $70 million, the largest portion. His younger brothers, William Kissam, Frederick William, and George Washington Vanderbilt II, each inherited around $55 million. The daughters received several million apiece. On paper, the family remained unimaginably wealthy. but William Henry's warning went unheeded. Inherited wealth is as certain death to ambition as cocaine is to morality. He understood that his sons, raised in luxury, lacked the hunger that built the fortune. They'd never worked Staten Island ferries or battled monopolies or slashed fares until competitors bled. They'd never needed to. 1875, William Kissam Vanderbilt married Alva Erskine Smith. Beautiful, ambitious, socially desperate. Alva's own family money had evaporated, and she needed a Vanderbilt to fund her ascent into New York's highest society. But there was a problem. The 400, Caroline Schermerhorn Astor and her partner Ward McAllister, had created an exclusive list of New York's only socially acceptable families. 400 people who mattered. The Vanderbilts, despite their wealth, weren't included. New money, Mrs. Astor sneered, earned through commerce rather than inherited through aristocratic lineage. The Vanderbilts could buy mansions, but they couldn't buy acceptance. This enraged Alva. She'd married a fortune. She intended to leverage it. 1883. Alva's weapon arrived, 660 Fifth Avenue, a petit chateau designed by Richard Morris Hunt, modeled on French Renaissance palaces. Construction cost $3 million, $70 million in today's money. The architect understood his client's true purpose. She didn't want a home. She wanted a battering ram to crash through society's gates. The mansion's completion set the stage for Alva's masterstroke, a costume ball. Over 1,000 guests invited. The most elaborate party in American history. Cost $250,000, $5.8 million today. Every detail designed to showcase Vanderbilt wealth and shame the Astors. There was one family Alva didn't invite, the Astors. Mrs. Astor's daughter desperately wanted to attend. She'd practiced a special quadrille for months, but without an invitation, she couldn't go. Mrs. Astor, who'd spent years snubbing the Vanderbilts, faced humiliating choice: swallow pride and call on Alva, or let her daughter suffer social embarrassment. She called on Alva. The Vanderbilts had won. The party proceeded March 26, 1883. The New York Times described it as fairyland. Alva wore Venetian princess costume dripping with jewels. The acceptance she'd purchased for $75.8 million total was complete. She was inside the 400. Unfortunately, this victory triggered catastrophe. Within 5 weeks of Alva's successful party, William Henry Vanderbilt, the Commodore's son, began designing his own Fifth Avenue mansion. If Willie K's wife could have a palace, why not the family patriarch? The competition had begun. Cornelius Vanderbilt II, William Henry's eldest son, received $5 million from his grandfather, the Commodore, and $70 million from his father. He possessed the strongest business instinct among the third generation, managing railroads and continuing philanthropy. In 1894, he commissioned the Breakers in Newport, Rhode Island. Richard Morris Hunt designed a 70-room Italian Renaissance palace modeled on 16th-century palaces. Construction cost, $7 million, over $200 million today. 70 rooms, 33 for servants, used a few weeks annually during summer season. The mansion featured imported marble, alabaster, rare woods, a 2-story ballroom, separate dressing rooms and bedrooms for Cornelius and his wife Alice. The entire structure was a monument to the excesses that would destroy the family. When Cornelius II died in 1899, his estate totaled only $73 million, despite receiving over $75 million in inheritance. The difference? Real estate spending and philanthropy. The Breakers alone consumed nearly 10% of his fortune to build, and annual maintenance costs hemorrhaged hundreds of thousands more. William Kissam Vanderbilt, Alva's husband, inherited $55 million. He had zero interest in managing railroads. Horses interested him more than business. His wife interested him least of all. Alva possessed volcanic temperament and insatiable appetite for spending Willie's money. She collected mansions like other women collected jewelry, 9 total, marble house in Newport, another $11 million palace. The mansions were barely occupied. Status symbols requiring armies of servants year-round to maintain buildings used weeks annually. Willie learned that appeasing Alva required unlimited spending. He funded yachts, plural, and every architectural whim. They divorced in 1895, the scandal of the decade. Alva got her settlement and promptly married Oliver Belmont, whose family fortune she could now drain instead. George Washington Vanderbilt II, youngest son, had the least interest in business. Books obsessed him. According to his diary, he read 3,159 books in his lifetime. In 1888, he began purchasing land in Asheville, North Carolina. By century's end, 125,000 acres. On this estate, he built Biltmore House, 250 rooms, designed by Richard Morris Hunt, modeled on French chateaux, the largest privately owned home in United States history, 175,856 square feet, bowling alley, swimming pool, library holding 23,000 volumes. George married Edith Stuyvesant Dresser in 1898. They had one daughter, Cornelia. The estate consumed George's fortune. Maintenance costs were staggering, property taxes astronomical. In 1914, George went to Washington, D.C. for appendectomy, routine procedure. 10 days later, he died from complications. He was 51. Edith inherited Biltmore and its crushing financial burden. She sold pieces of the estate to survive. The village of Biltmore, thousands of acres. By the time she died in 1958, the family had donated much of the land to create Great Smoky Mountains National Park, receiving tax deductions that made the property marginally sustainable. Today, Biltmore remains in family hands, operated as tourist attraction. Ticket sales fund maintenance that inheritance couldn't. The pattern crystallized. Cornelius built. William preserved and doubled. The third generation spent. The fourth generation hemorrhaged. Reginald Claypool Vanderbilt, great-grandson of the Commodore, allegedly gambled away $70,000 on his 21st birthday, $2.6 million today. He died at 45 in 1925, leaving daughter Gloria a $5 million trust fund. But the fortune was already collapsing. By the 1920s, income taxes made maintaining multiple mansions economically insane. Property taxes on Fifth Avenue estates exceeded what middle-class families earned annually. Staff costs for 70-room palaces bankrupted accounts. One by one, the Fifth Avenue mansions fell to the wrecking ball, the first demolished in 1914. By 1947, every single Vanderbilt Fifth Avenue mansion had been destroyed, razed, replaced by apartment buildings and department stores. Bergdorf Goodman occupies the site where Cornelius Vanderbilt II's 154-room palace once stood. Not a plaque, not a marker, nothing. The railroad empire collapsed too. What was once the second-largest railroad system in America declared bankruptcy in 1970. Instead of a bailout, the government nationalized passenger services, creating Amtrak. The Vanderbilt transportation monopoly that Cornelius spent decades building, that connected New York to Chicago and revolutionized American commerce, ceased to exist less than a century after his death. 1973, 120 Vanderbilt descendants gathered at Vanderbilt University for the family's first reunion. The university the Commodore had endowed with $1 million in 1873, $30 million in today's money, to create a lasting legacy. When those 120 descendants assembled, a remarkable fact emerged: not a single millionaire among them. Not one. The $200 billion fortune had evaporated entirely in less than a century. How? Where did it go? Mansions that were demolished, yachts that sank or were sold, art collections that were auctioned, divorces that divided estates. Inheritance taxes that consumed 50% or more with each generation, philanthropy that, while admirable, drained resources, and most critically, no family member maintained business involvement after the third generation. They became consumers rather than producers, spenders rather than earners. The Commodore's warning proved prophetic. Any fool can make a fortune. It takes brains to hold it. His descendants had breeding, education, culture, and impeccable taste. What they lacked was his hunger, his ruthlessness. his understanding that wealth was tool, not trophy. Gloria Vanderbilt, born 1924, received that $5 million trust fund at birth, $73 million in today's terms. But by the time she gained control at 21, much had already been spent on custody battles and legal fees. The poor little rich girl custody trial of 1934 became tabloid sensation. Gloria's mother and aunt Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney fighting over custody of a child worth millions. Whitney won, but the publicity destroyed any remaining privacy. Gloria eventually built her own fashion empire in the 1970s, designer jeans with her signature white swan logo, at its peak worth $100 million. She'd proven you could build on inherited wealth rather than simply spend it. But even Gloria couldn't escape the family pattern. Her fashion empire faded. She faced lawsuits accusing her lawyer and psychiatrist of stealing millions. She sold her Southampton 7-bedroom mansion and 5-story Manhattan townhouse to pay back taxes to the IRS. Personal tragedy struck in 1988 when her son Carter committed suicide, jumping from the 14th floor terrace of her apartment. When Gloria died in June 2019 at age 95, reports estimated her worth at $200 million. The will revealed different reality. Her estate totaled less than $1.5 million. Total. Her eldest son, Leopold, received her $1.2 million co-op. Anderson Cooper inherited the rest, less than $300,000. From $200 billion to $300,000 in 5 generations, Anderson Cooper, CNN anchor, Emmy winner, earns $20 million annually, net worth estimated at $200 million from his own career. Gloria's great-great-grandson who works for a living, first Vanderbilt in generations to hold actual job. He told Howard Stern in 2014, "My mom's made clear to me that there's no trust fund. There's none of that. I don't believe in inheriting money. I think it's an initiative sucker. I think it's a curse. Who has inherited a lot of money that has gone on to do things in their own life?" Cooper understood what killed the Vanderbilt fortune: expectation. When you believe money awaits, regardless of effort, why work? Why build? Why create? Gloria had told the New York Times in 1985, "I'm not knocking inherited money, but the money I've made has a reality to me that inherited money doesn't have." She knew. Anderson knows. They're outliers who broke the cycle by rejecting it. The mathematics of destruction are brutal. Assume $200 billion in 1877. By 1973, zero. That's not gradual decline. That's systematic demolition. Start with division. Cornelius left $80 million to William, $20 million to others. William divided among 4 sons, $70 million each plus daughters' shares. Already fragmented. Now add spending, $3 million for a house, $7 million for the breakers, $11 million for Marble House, multiple millions for Biltmore, and that's just construction. Annual maintenance on the breakers, hundreds of thousands. Staff salaries, tens of thousands per mansion. Property taxes, devastating. Then inheritance taxes, 50% or more each generation in the early 20th century. Divorce settlements. Willie K. paid Alva fortune in their 1895 divorce. William Kissam Vanderbilt II lost large portions in his divorce. Each split-halved dynastic wealth. Philanthropy, admirable but expensive. Cornelius gave $1 million to Vanderbilt University. William Henry donated to Columbia, hospitals, arts organizations. Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney funded female artists. George Washington Vanderbilt II built libraries. Generous, devastating. Finally, inflation. Dollars in 1877 worth 30 times 2024 dollars. But the family kept spending at inflation-adjusted rates, while their static wealth lost purchasing power annually. And crucially, no new wealth generation after William Henry. Cornelius built steamship empire, then railroad monopoly. William expanded railroads and doubled fortune. After that, nothing. The 3rd generation managed existing assets poorly. The 4th generation abandoned business entirely for yachts and parties and costumes. By the 5th generation, there was nothing left to manage. The Vanderbilt story isn't unique. The Astor fortune largely vanished. The Gould wealth disappeared. Most Gilded Age fortunes evaporated within 3 or 4 generations for identical reasons: division through inheritance, spending on status symbols, failure to maintain business involvement, and assumption that wealth was permanent rather than fragile. Compare Rockefeller family. John D. Rockefeller died 1937, worth approximately $1.5 billion in inflation-adjusted dollars. His descendants remain wealthy today because they created trusts, maintained business involvement, and treated wealth as responsibility rather than entitlement. Or European aristocracy, families holding wealth for centuries through primogeniture and entailed estates. Eldest son inherits everything. Others receive incomes from trust funds but can't access principal, prevents fragmentation. What should the Vanderbilts have done? Trusts that staggered distributions, requirements that heirs work before receiving principal, limits on mansion construction, 1 per family line maximum, business involvement mandates, investment in income-producing assets rather than ego-feeding palaces, and most importantly, teaching descendants that wealth was privilege requiring stewardship, not trophy permitting indulgence. Cornelius understood this. William understood. But the message died with them. Their children and grandchildren learned different lesson. We are Vanderbilts, therefore we deserve everything. That entitlement killed an empire in 3 generations. Today, the Breakers is museum. Biltmore operates as tourist attraction. Grand Central Terminal, which Cornelius built, was saved from demolition in 1978 through landmark designation. Vanderbilt University thrives in Nashville, educating thousands annually. These institutions remain. The fortune? Gone. The family name persists as synonym for Gilded Age excess, for the particular American tragedy of building something extraordinary, then watching descendants destroy it through negligence disguised as sophistication. Anderson Cooper works because he must, because Gloria taught him the lesson her ancestors forgot. Money you earn means more than money you inherit. Reality trumps entitlement, and the initiative to build beats the expectation of receiving. Cornelius Vanderbilt, the 11-year-old who quit school to ferry cargo, who borrowed $100 and built $200 billion, who connected New York to Chicago and revolutionized American transportation, watches his legacy from whatever afterlife harbors robber barons. He sees the Breakers filled with tourists paying admission. He sees Grand Central Terminal, his monument, serving commuters. He sees Vanderbilt University, his philanthropic gesture, educating students who will never know his name beyond the buildings. But he doesn't see fortune, doesn't see railroad empire, doesn't see family members collecting dividends from his genius. He sees Anderson Cooper, great-great-great-grandson, earning $20 million annually from CNN, working, building his own legacy, breaking the cycle. Perhaps that's the real victory. Not the $200 billion that vanished, but the one descendant who figured out what Cornelius knew instinctively: wealth means nothing unless you earned it. And in that small victory, maybe the Commodore finally smiles. His blood understood. It just took 5 generations and complete financial annihilation to learn the lesson. And now we want to hear from you in the comments. Did you know the Vanderbilt fortune had completely vanished by 1973? What lessons do you think wealthy families today can learn from this cautionary tale? We look forward to your thoughts below. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Old Money Allure.